We are continuing WCTV's coverage of the 2022 election, and we have results both locally and nationwide.
Meanwhile, Waynesburg University honored an icon on campus and in the community, and Carvana stock plummeted this week. All this and more right here on WCTV.
And now, your 5 o'clock news on Channel 14.
Welcome to the Newscast live at 5. I'm Michael Leith.
And I'm Gwen Napier. And we have some election coverage for you on this newscast, so stay tuned and we hope you enjoy. Election night 2022 is over, but the counting of votes has not ended as states continue to tabulate mail-in ballots here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Over 95% of votes have been counted, enough to make several important calls. First, there was only one contested race that was local to the Greene County and Washington County area. Republican Bud Cook defeated Democrat Doug Mason, becoming the next representative of Pennsylvania's 5th legislative district. Micah Leith broke down those results.
We have more details on Bud Cook's victory over Doug Mason in the race for Pennsylvania's 50th legislative district. Now, we were able to call that race on election night thanks to a couple of factors. One, Greene County's votes counted, as well as Washington County's votes still to be counted. But now that all precincts are in and have been reported, we can look at some deeper trends about why Cook won that race. So, what was Cook's route to victory? First, he held key precincts in Washington County, areas that the Republicans served for 5 years before redistricting occurred. Second, he put on a strong performance in Greene County. For Democrat Doug Mason, losing Greene County left him with a difficult road to victory. Pam Snyder, the Democrat who represented Greene County in the General Assembly for a decade, won 53% of the vote total in her last election in 2018, compared to 35% for Doug Mason on Tuesday night. Mason, a band teacher in the Central Greene School District, ran on education as an important issue.
The student who comes from Greene County or another rural area is not getting the same educational opportunities as someone from a suburban area. It's just not happening. And there's really one main reason why that's the case. It's how schools are funded.
As Bud Cook prepares for his first term in his new district, he said that he is committed to working with Greene County residents.
I think politically in Harrisburg, they thought they were punishing me by giving me Greene County. They were actually rewarding me. I'm pretty much straightforward. If I don't like you, I'm going to tell you right to your face, and you're going to deal with it. And I really feel that that's who we are in Greene County and also in the Mon Valley. We don't mince words.
Cook texted me on election night reiterating his support for investment in Greene County, as well as saying that he is committed to a fair and transparent government. For Channel 14 News, I'm Michael Leith.
Greene County Senator in the Pennsylvania General Assembly will remain unchanged. Camera Bartolotta was re-elected to a third term in office after running unopposed in both the primary and general election. She said that her priority from day one is working to boost Pennsylvania's energy production, as well as bringing in more jobs to the state by taking advantage of capital investment opportunities and improving the climate for businesses. She also stressed bipartisanship as an issue important to her.
That's what we need to see a lot more of, is cooperation across the aisle. When you're elected, the election's over. The job at hand is to get things done. And I've been very, very blessed with having an incredible staff and building relationships, not just in my district, but throughout all of the Commonwealth, with other House members, with other senators, Democrats, Republicans, Independent, anybody, so that we can get things done for my district and for Pennsylvania.
Greene County's representative in the U.S. House will also remain unchanged. Guy Reschenthaler, a two-term incumbent, won both the primary and general election unopposed. He first assumed office in 2018, and his campaign website highlights national security and job creation as key issues. Be the next governor of Pennsylvania. The state's attorney general defeated Republican lawmaker Doug Mastriano, According to the Pennsylvania Department of State, Shapiro holds a 14-point lead over Mastriano with most of the votes in. This means Democrats will keep control of Pennsylvania's executive branch, while Republicans hold the state Senate, although the House is still too close to call.
Democrat John Fetterman won the Pennsylvania State Senate race, defeating Republican Minute Oz. Fetterman will succeed retiring Republican Senator Pat Toomey, flipping a seat in favor of Democrats. Fetterman, Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor since 2019, stayed in the race despite suffering a stroke in May. He currently holds a 4-point lead with 96% of the vote counted, enough to declare him the winner.
We held the line. I never expected that we were going to turn these red counties blue, but we did what we needed to do, and we had that conversation across every one of those counties. And tonight, that's why I'll be the next U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania.
We will shift away from our election coverage briefly to give you an update on other news around the campus and the community. First, Waynesburg University honored Larry Marshall after his passing last month. Caleb Yager spoke with several key figures on campus to honor the life of a campus and community legend.
Waynesburg University has recently lost a beloved family member. Larry Marshall, a resident of Waynesburg for his entire life, passed away on Friday, October 14th, 2022, at the age of 75. In recognition of his passing, a ceremony was held on campus on Saturday, October 22nd, to commemorate the former Waynesburg grad and Distinguished Alumni Award winner.
He just loved serving people, which I think is part of that Waynesburg alumni tradition, service. So a life of service up until the very end.
Marshall played basketball at Waynesburg, which led him to be an assistant coach alongside the legendary Rudy Marisa. Marshall was a science teacher for 35 years at Trinity High School, chief of the Waynesburg Franklin Township Fire Company for 25 years, manager of the Greene County Fairgrounds for 42 years, but above all, he was Waynesburg through and through.
He knew everyone in the community, and it seemed like he knew everything that was going on.
I knew the role that he was in, the leadership, the way he led the fire company there. I knew 100% that he had my safety and everyone's safety at the forefront.
Caleb Yager, Channel 14 News.
A parade down High Street in Waynesburg was held to honor those who fought for our freedom. The event was not actually held on Veterans Day, November 11th, in order to accommodate the schedules of some of the people featured. Floats, dancers, bands, and more marched down the street in honor of veterans who served our country. This year's Grand Marshal Joe Ayersom and last year's Grand Marshal John Buzz Walters were in attendance. From bagpipe players to drummers to dancers and many more were in attendance to honor veterans. That's not the last parade WCTV will be covering. WCTV will be live streaming the Greene County Christmas Parade on December 3rd as well. That parade starts at 2 p.m. and can be streamed on our YouTube channel, WCTV Waynesburg University. That's all for campus and local news, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have updates on elections from around the country.
This is producer Caleb Yager, and you are watching The Buzz.
Welcome back to the Newscast, live at 5, covering nationwide elections. It's too close to call. The balance of power in Washington is hanging in the balance with some smoke-key races still left unsettled. Democrats are breathing a sigh of relief as an anticipated red wave has not materialized. Isabella Rosales breaks down the crucial races still up in air and the big surprises coming out of the midterm election.
President Biden appears to have avoided a shellacking, as President Obama said back in 2010 during his midterm, and a thumping, as George W. Bush said back in 2006. In fact, Biden may be having the best midterm out of his recent predecessors.
We are thrilled at the unexpected high turnout.
Voters showing up at the polls and making their voices heard. Election day is over, but key races remain uncalled, as the balance of power in the Senate rests in the hands of a few swing states. A stronger than expected showing for Democrats, blocking a so-called red wave.
Democrats had a strong night, and we lost fewer seats in the House of Representatives than any Democratic president's first midterm election in the last 40 years.
Still, Republicans remain cautiously optimistic about winning control of the House.
The American people are ready for a majority that will offer a new direction.
Despite the battle for control of Congress remaining unsettled, a big boost for Democrats in battleground Pennsylvania. Democrat John Fetterman defeating Republican Mehmet Oz, a Trump-endorsed candidate, in their race for Senate.
I never expected that we were going to turn these red counties blue, but we did what we needed to do.
And a significant win for Republicans in the Sunshine State. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis delivering historic margins in key Democratic territory like Miami-Dade County.
The people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay.
The critical Senate race in Georgia projected to go to a runoff on December 6th. The showdown between Republican Herschel Walker and incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock may be key to determine which party is in control. And President Biden also took a post-midterms victory lap during a White House press briefing, but he also said that voters made it clear they are frustrated, to which he said, "I get it." From Capitol Hill, I'm Isabel Rosales.
Those results are also having an international impact. In an exclusive interview with CNN's Christiane Amanpour, together with his wife Olena Zelenska, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky reacted to the U.S. midterm election results.
I want to ask you, because you're both sitting here with me at a time when the Americans have had an important election, midterm elections. It looks like it's not a massive wave, but I wonder whether you worry that there may be donor fatigue in the West, maybe in the United States, with the economic pressures. Maybe if some Republicans say no more blank check for Ukraine. You've had a lot of American visitors here in these last few days, senior from the administration. Are you assured of America's continued support and Europe's continued support?
We would really like for the support, especially the amount of support, to stay the same, and to have this joint support from the US society and above all US taxpayers, because at the end of the day, this is not the money of the government, but the money of the people. And secondly, we are grateful for bipartisan support. We would really like to have this bipartisan support remain after the elections, because yes, there have been these mixed messages that were in the US mass media, particularly from the Republican side. And for us, it's very important to preserve this level of support, because the US support sends a very significant, powerful signal, and it has an impact also on the amount of support coming from the EU countries and some of the countries outside the EU as well. So whenever the United States supports us financially, then Europe joins this support as well.
With elections nationwide wrapping up, be mindful of how this election may impact your mental health. Politics can bring stress and worry, but there are some ways to help overcome those feelings. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on how to ease election anxiety.
Differing beliefs, long lines at the polls, concerns over outcomes.
Election stress, like other stressors, have significant negative physical and emotional consequences.
Cleveland Clinic psychologist Susan Albers says some signs of stress include trouble sleeping, loss of appetite, upset stomach, sweating, and excessive worry.
All of these things indicate that your emotional system may be on overdrive.
To overcome those feelings, Albert says avoid catastrophizing when your mind jumps to the worst case scenario for your side.
Political ads are the epitome of this. It convinces us that if we vote for candidate X, disaster will happen. This seeps into our subconscious and replays over and over again. So stay in the present.
Focus on routine, healthy eating, and sleeping. Albert says that can help our bodies be ready for the next day, no matter what happens at the polls, and be mindful of when, where, and with whom you have political conversations.
Those conflicts, arguments, disagreements, that can make your stress response skyrocket. On the other hand, those open, fruitful discussions can make us feel really soothed and validated.
If things get heated, Albert says step away.
If conflict is about to erupt, it is okay to state your feeling and create a boundary. Say, that's a really important thought, but this is not the time or place to talk about it.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
If you're finding yourself stressing over differing opinions posted on social media or while watching political ads, health experts say to go off the grid for a while.
Republicans might be closing in on a slim majority in the House of Representatives. However, the Senate is still too close to call, with Georgia's race going to a runoff next month. In the end, it might become harder for Democrats to pass legislation, but the GOP doesn't appear to have done as well in the midterms as some polls had suggested. Amy Kiley reports on the ramifications of the predicted red wave turning out to be pink.
While the press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave, it didn't happen.
If anything, the wave looks pink as the final election results trickle in. In fact, this might end up being the best midterm performance for a sitting president's party in 20 years.
I felt good during the whole process.
The outcome has ramifications beyond the party roll calls. Narrow congressional majorities can favor more moderate viewpoints. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin could speak to that. Democrats say the midterm results also send a message about the issues that matter to Americans and how they want to solve them.
The issues were the economy and autonomy and democracy.
By autonomy, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine says he means many voters are upset about even tighter abortion restrictions.
If you were an economy voter, that didn't mean that you were voting Republicans. A lot of people like what the Democrats are doing and want us to do more.
The midterms were also the first major election since the January 6th Capitol riot.
I kind of feel like it's a Groundhog Day. We had November 3rd, 2020. That was called Incompetency 101.
The broad result is in for gubernatorial candidates across the country. Most who refused to affirm the 2020 presidential election results lost. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade earlier this year was among the issues Americans considered while voting on Tuesday. In at least 3 states, Michigan, California, and Vermont, abortion rights were protected, according to CNN projections. However, it's too soon to tell what will happen with abortion rights in Kentucky and Montana. Voters in Kentucky considered an amendment that doesn't protect a woman's ability to terminate a pregnancy. Montana residents, meanwhile, considered a referendum that imposes criminal penalties to health care providers who perform an abortion. That's all for National Election Results Roundup. Next up is Caleb Yager with your business and entertainment update. But first, we have Logan Lepiscopo outside for a quick weather tease.
It's currently 63 degrees here in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. The weather's been kind of fluctuating between high and low temperatures, and quite honestly, it's been really dry outside here in Waynesburg, but hopefully the weather upcoming this next week will change things. Stick around for my 7-day forecast right here on WCTV.
Welcome back. I'm Caleb Yager, and this is your business and entertainment update. A new law could soon change the way you look for a new job in New York City. Most employers there are now required to post good faith pay ranges in their job listings. Colorado already does this, and a similar law in California is taking effect in January, giving much needed transparency for job seekers. And in today's Consumer Watch, how the impact could lead to how it could have ripple effects across the country.
Job hunting is getting a major upgrade. New laws are requiring employers to show pay ranges on job listings aimed at improving pay transparency.
This is huge. It should go further. It should be all jobs.
New York City is now requiring companies with 4 employees or more to show the money up front, listing the salary or hourly wage range for any job posting or promotion that can be performed in NYC. Meaning even if it's a remote job, employers must comply. Civil rights attorney Nancy Smith says wage transparency is a major step toward closing the wage pay gap in the U.S. and says the change will impact women and people of color the most.
94% of jobs have a wage pay gap. And still, in 2022, women make 83 cents on the dollar.
Colorado put a law like this on the books last year, and in California, a similar law goes into effect on January 1st for employers with at least 15 employees. Experts say the new laws will be far-reaching since they affect 2 of the most populous areas in the U.S., which have many remote workers. Experts saying existing employees will be able to use the laws as a bargaining tool and advocate for themselves if they're underpaid.
It's an inspiring time to look at the candidate behavior, and I think it's a frightening time for employers because many are not prepared for that power shift.
Meanwhile, a few other states like Rhode Island and Maryland have legislation that requires employers to provide salary ranges upon request. For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
In New York, the city's Commission on Human Rights will enforce the new law. And with the first violation, employers get a 30-day grace period in order to fix it. And after, the penalties can go up to $250,000. Well, if you're in the market for a used car, it may be a good time to buy one. But if you want to invest in a company that deals in them, well, maybe not so much. Carvana stock fell so sharply recently, trading on it had to be temporarily halted several times. It dropped 15% in just one day. Added to the crash it saw Friday, Carvana stock is now down more than 50% in just 2 days. The problem is used car prices have come down more than 10% in the past year. And that means Carvana may have to sell some cars for less than it actually paid for them. Adding fuel to that fire, high interest rates mean fewer people can afford to finance a car purchase. After a disastrous earnings report Thursday, one analyst said Carvana could actually be worth as little as $1 per share. It closed Monday at $7.39. The combination of softening demand and falling prices has also hit CarMax hard. The used car retailer has seen its stock price cut in half this year. Well, Twitter owner Elon Musk is asking advertisers to give him a chance. He held a Twitter Spaces session Wednesday, attended by representatives from Adidas, Chevron, Kate Spade, Nissan, and Walgreens. Musk said he wanted Twitter, quote, to be a force that moves civilization in a positive direction, end quote. For him, an indicator of success would be growth in users and advertisers. But many advertisers are questioning the direction of the company following Musk's takeover. In the last week, he launched an unlaunched product changes and laid off half of the company. Well, that's all for your business and entertainment update. Coming up next is Darian Allensworth with a breakdown of Waynesburg sports right here on WCTV.
Good evening. I'm Darian Allensworth here with your Waynesburg Sports Report. This past weekend, the Waynesburg University football team took on St. Vincent, and man, it was a rough one for the Jackets in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. They lost 53-16, and it started at the very beginning when St. Vincent returned the opening kickoff for a 100-yard touchdown. By halftime, the St. Vincent was up 32-10, with Waynesburg's only points coming from a touchdown from freshman quarterback Thomas Burke III to sophomore wide receiver Dakota Romantino and a Sestoke field goal attempt. A bright spot for Waynesburg was their running game, which had 263 yards split between sophomore Hunter Cameron, senior Justin Flack, and graduate student Nick Hall. Flack in total had 136 yards on the day, with an addition of 58 receiving yards, earning him Waynesburg Athlete of the Week. The Jackets will finish the regular season with a backyard brawl against Washington and Jefferson this Saturday at 1 p.m. Our very own Spencer Ferteri and Tyler Zeman will have the call on WCYJ-FM 99.5 The Hive, while the Waynesburg University Sports Network will be covering it live, and you can find the stream on either the PAC website or the Waynesburg University Athletics page, where Brock Owens and Austin Bechtold will be broadcasting. Both the men's and women's basketball teams got off to rough starts to begin their 2022-2023 seasons, with both teams losing their first games. The women's team fell to Case Western Reserve University 94-48 on the road. The young Lady Jackets squad were only down by 7 at the end of the first quarter, but after that, the Titans ran away with it. The Lady Jackets have an exhibition game this Saturday at Robert Morris University. The men's team lost their home opener to Kenyon College 71-54 after being down only 5 at the end of the first half. The Jackets couldn't stop a barrage of threes in the second half, resulting with the Owls flying away with the game. Both teams look to rebound next Wednesday at Chatham, where Will Yoakum and I will have the call on WCYJ-FM 99.5 The Hive. The Waynesburg University wrestling team started its season at the Ned McGinley Invitational this past Saturday, where they finished 11th out of 11 teams. Senior Harley Constable had the best performance for the Yellow Jackets, going 3-2 at the 141-pound weight class. Sophomore Seth Evans and junior Kyle Heinerman both picked up a win that day as well. The wrestling team is back in action this Saturday in the Washington and Jefferson Invitational. Starting time is scheduled for 9 a.m. Wrapping up with esports, the Overwatch team was swept last week by Trent University and Hood College, but bounced back with a sweep of their own against Marion Technical College. They take on Limestone tonight at 6 and Southwestern Michigan at 9. The Rocket League team looks to stay undefeated as they are currently taking on King's College. They take on the 2 seed this Friday against Lebanon Valley College at 5. League of Legends wraps up the regular season this Friday at 6:30 versus Clark University before starting playoffs next week. The Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Team sweep last week, with Timbo and Colesweb sweeping the competition, beating Montgomery Community College and SUNY Potsdam last week as well. Colesweb stays undefeated to keep the #1 seed in the Metropolitan A Division, and with his performance, he becomes the first Esports Waynesburg Athlete of the Week. Smash wraps up this Friday before going into the playoffs next week. Unfortunately, that's all I have for Waynesburg University sports, but don't go anywhere. Logan Lepiscopo is coming up next with your weather forecast, right here on Channel 14 News.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
I'm Logan Lepiscopo, and this is your 7-day weather forecast. The weather's been fluctuating a lot the past few days, from temperatures in the high 60s to temperatures down in the low 50s. Today, though, we will begin a decline in temperature for the week as a high peaked at 69 degrees, but expect tonight to drop down to 37. Tomorrow, we'll see a high of 68 degrees, a low of 52 degrees. Expect a major distribution in rain this afternoon, or I should say tomorrow afternoon, beginning as early as 3 a.m. over in Glenwood. As we get into the weekend, the rain will stop and the temperatures will drop. Just a 30% chance of rain on Saturday and a high of 57 and a low of 36. To round out the weekend, Sunday we will get some hours in silence as the rain will stop and temperatures will continue to get lower as the high for the day is just 41 degrees, experience a low of below a freezing 30-degree temperature. Monday, the sun will be back outside, boys and girls, but just partially, as it's still going to be mostly cloudy. The high for the day will be 43 degrees and a low of 27 degrees. Tuesday, the sun will be behind the clouds once again, as it will be an overcast day with a high of 44 and a low of 27. To round out the 7-day forecast, Wednesday will be yet another overcast day with a high of 45 and a low of 35. I hope everybody enjoyed the 60 and 70-degree weather here in Waynesburg for the first few weeks of November, because it appears that from here on out, you'll feel like you're stranded in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, mail-in ballots and that type of thing are becoming more common nowadays. Now, how do you all get your votes in if you voted? I mean, just what methods did you use?
Well, I'm actually not from Pennsylvania. I'm from West Virginia, so mail-in ballots are very beneficial to me. That way I don't have to travel all the way home to vote.
How about you guys?
Well, I actually had the opportunity to vote here in Greene County, even though I live about an hour and 20 minutes away. I was able to vote in person just, like a block or so down the road.
Nice, Caleb. I just mailed in my ballot.
Well, thank you for joining us today. You can catch all of WCTV's Live at 5 newscasts on WCTV Waynesburg University. Thank you for watching.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.